A lot of the people that were close family to me were bank robbers. If I went back, if I had a high school reunion, I don't think there'd be 3 or 4 people there.
Wow, but you lived an abundant life.
In the 90s, she got caught with millions of dollars of drugs.
So that was your way
me.
out?
Oh, yeah. And my mom said, people like us don't save money.
You got into the military, that it got you out of that neighborhood.
Yeah, I had discipline for the first time.
Yeah, you were running gyms and doing all kinds of stuff.
It isn't okay to not tie your shoelaces correctly.
You've got to have somebody to be able to talk to.
As soon as I joined the club, all of that went away. If I fall, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I'd never felt that before.
What would you say to an aspiring entrepreneur, Michael?
Stop thinking and just start doing. Discipline equals freedom.
Welcome to today's episode of The Four Pillars, and I am very excited to have a special guest with us today named Michael Sloggett. Michael and I met, how many years ago? Over 10 years ago, right? Yeah. And at that time, he was a student of mine coming to the trainings I was doing for a really successful company in the travel space. And as the years have gone on, Michael and I have always stayed in contact, and you went on and started your own company that I'm excited to hear about that. I want our audience to hear about that. But why don't we start back at the beginning? You know what I mean? When we first met, how old were you when we first met?
I would have been just about to turn 30.
Just about to, I remember you. You are 30. So energetic and dynamic and, driven, like really, really driven. And you got involved and you did a lot of success in that company, yeah? Yeah,
it was a lot of what you always referred to as ignorance on fire. I think that's where I got in and I made the most mistakes. But I had a lot of wins. Yeah.
Oh, you did, for sure. I know you enrolled, so it was a network marketing opportunity, and you enrolled a lot of people personally, right?
Yeah, well, it was my first go at network marketing, and I didn't even know that I was in a network marketing company. And I remember the first time I got recognized, I was like, I sell travel. Mm-hmm. And I was just so excited. I was so excited with the prospect of making money and going on holidays. I was like, for someone like me, I was like, it doesn't get any better. And
so let's talk about someone like me, because again, I want our audience to understand your background. So first of all, you're from?
Western Sydney, Australia.
In Australia, yeah. Okay. And what kind of growing up? Did you grow up in a wealthy, affluent family?
No, absolutely not. The polar opposite, actually. We grew up in what's called housing commission. So it's the equivalent of like government housing. Okay. One of the most violent, kind of rough areas that you probably could in the 80s. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. Come from a single parent home. My mother was adopted. My father left before I was born. And it was tough. It was a very hard, it was a very violent place to grow up, but it also served a lot of lessons. Okay. A hell of a lot of lessons.
Yeah. So that's, we talked on one of our earlier podcasts about nature versus nurture. So for a lot of people who grow up in an environment like you did, and I know we've talked about this before, you not only you've said violent already twice, so obviously it was violent, but there was a lot of crime around, yeah?
Yeah, it was a lot of serious crime. So I was surrounded by a lot of the people that were close family to me were bank robbers, armed robbers, stick-up men, counter jumpers. And the other side of that was I grew up through the heroin epidemic. So heroin was huge. And, we saw the absolute worst of what it did. And there were two sides to it. You had these people that were violent criminals, but then they were usually feeding a habit. And then you had people that were drug dealers that just brings a whole nother level of violence. Yeah. And so it was just rough. It was a violent, rough place.
Wow. So that's your nature. That's what you were in. So I'm guessing the other people, if you look at other kids that were growing up when you were a kid, I'd bet a pretty good percentage of them ended up doing that sort of thing for a living themselves, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's a real shame. Like I look back, if I went back, if I had a high school reunion, I don't think there'd be 3 or 4 people there.
Wow.
And for the people that made it out, yeah, it was tragic. A lot of death, and a lot of incarceration. A lot of people went to jail. A lot of people died, and a lot of people just kind of faded away into the abyss. Never really become much of anything at all. The place definitely didn't breed prosperity. It was a place that really...
Yeah. Well, you obviously have stepped out of that and not just lived a good, honest life, but you lived an abundant life. So what was there a moment or a person that like gave you a belief that you could live a different kind of life? What happened?
It's funny because it comes from the most unlikely place. My auntie Chris, she was like a second mother to me. And she also happened to be the largest heroin dealer in the western suburbs. She ended up doing 10 years prison when I was very, very young. I was 14. And in the 90s, she got caught with millions of dollars of drugs. It was very, 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 very serious crime. She was a career criminal. And I remember once there was something going on and she looked at me and she said, "Mick, you'll make it out of here one day." And I don't know why I believed her, but it was the first person who ever told me that this isn't how it's always going to be. And because she said it and I loved her so much, and when she said it with just so much, I don't know if it was the time or the place or just the posture that she had, but she said it in a way where I looked at her and I said, man, she's telling the truth. And it gave me this level of belief. I was like, all right, maybe this isn't what it's always going to be like. Maybe there is things that are far better than me. And, you know, that was the first thing that really made me go, all right, well, if it doesn't always have to be like this, then it won't be. And she said that to me when I was 14. And by the time I was 18, I knew that I didn't want to be there. And that's why I joined the military and got
so that was your way out.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Well, you know, so one thing is like if you're a parent or someone who's a little older, I want to make sure people heard what you just said. Imagine if your aunt had not said that to you. Oh. Isn't that crazy? Like just that one little seed that got into your head, for whatever reason, she said the right thing at the right time, and it took root, because some seeds obviously don't take root. And that was the beginning of you believing it was possible for you to get out. Yeah,
and it really was. And I look back over my life and I had so many little moments like that, positive and negative, really early on. You know, my mom said something to me once, and God bless her. She didn't know what she was saying was going to affect me in such a negative way, but my pop gave me some money before he passed away for my birthday. And I looked at my mom and said, I'm going to keep this forever. It was a $20 note. Never seen a $20 note before. Wow. And my mom said, people like us don't save money.
Wow.
And I was like, Roger that.
Yeah.
And I spent it.
Yeah.
I spent it like fast.
And, wow. People like us don't. That's crazy.
But she said it with so much love in her heart.
Yeah.
She just didn't know what she knew. And, you know, you're saying, you know, to the parents there, the things that we say.
Yeah. Well, in the Bible, it says the power of life and death is in our tongue. And it's so true. I remember years ago, there was a really beautiful young girl came up at a training, and she was very quiet and stuff, but she was really attractive, really dynamic. She seemed to have so much going on for her. And she had gotten in someone else's team, and she had just come to training, and she looked at me and she's like, gosh, do you really think I could do this? And I'm like, absolutely. Why wouldn't you be able to do it? And so on. And as the conversation went a little further, she goes, yeah, it's like, you know, what my mom taught me is I should never dream about success, because if I never dream about success, then it won't be too hard when it doesn't happen. Because, you know, she came from a family of poor people, maybe in fairly similar environment to what you grew up in.
And the worst is, in that sentence, her mum genuinely believes she's helping
Oh,
her.
she thought she was helping her.
I'm protecting her.
She said it to protect her.
I'm going to stop you from feeling massive pain.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do what I can to stop you from having to feel that, because I love you so much.
Yeah. And there's obviously different levels of awareness, but I think a lot of people, especially as a parent, don't realize the power our words have and how we shape our kids' belief levels. So, well, that's a whole nother podcast. We'll come back and talk about that. But let's fast forward. So you got into the military. It got you out of that neighborhood.
Yeah, it got me out of Western Sydney in New South Wales. It's on the east coast of Australia. And got me all the way up in Townsville, which is as far away as you can possibly go.
And that's where you're still from, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't go back to hell if you get the hell out.
Okay, so in the military, what happened?
I was an infantry soldier, and I love soldiering. Really, really loved soldiering. It was the first time I had purpose. It was the first time in my life I'd had positive male influence as well. Not having a father, not really having any discipline or a schedule. I was a street kid running around doing street kid stuff. So when I got into this situation where all of a sudden I had really positive male role models, I had discipline for the first time.
Yeah.
And I had schedules and rules.
Right.
And I just thrived. I was like, hey, give me more of this. Yeah. And got a passion for physical fitness. Really loved the that side of it, and it was the first time that I really had purpose, and it was the first time I'd ever been in a group of other men where we had responsibility to each other. One of the things that I loved about the military wasn't knowing that I had a group of guys that had my back. It was for the first time I knew that I had other people's, and it gave me this massive sense of fulfillment, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you just said so much in that little brief period there. So, human beings need to have fulfillment. Human beings need to have purpose. And it's also interesting. So with the discipline, again, I go back to a lot of parents, but also a lot of people who either own a company or they're building a sales team, and they're very hesitant to hold people accountable. They're afraid, if I give Michael a rule or if I discipline Michael, he might quit. They have that fearful thought. But if you think about a military drill sergeant, they're not afraid of you quitting. Obviously, you can't just quit the military, but the point is, it's a positive, man. It's in the Bible. It says if you don't discipline your children, it's like you hate them. You need to discipline your children. You, at that point in your life, needed discipline. I mean, think about it now. I know you pretty well. You're very disciplined. And it's had a lot to do with your business success. But imagine if you hadn't gone to the military and you'd never gotten that strong male role model who let you know there's nothing wrong with being disciplined and being accountable and all that kind of stuff.
Not only that, discipline in areas like taking pride in yourself. Thing like, it isn't okay to not tie your shoelaces correctly. Right. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, all right, well, why is that so important? And these guys are getting beasted about, and you could sit back and go, this is silly. It's like, no. There's a reason why it's so important, because if you can do that and you can take pride in something so small and you can have the discipline to do it a certain way every day, tying your shoelaces and making your bed, they're two things that carried on in so many other areas. And I look at that, I'm like, that discipline to make my bed every day is the same discipline in business to call the leads. It's the same discipline to go to the meetings. It's the same discipline in so many other areas. So, I'm a big believer now that, one of my mentors, he always says discipline equals freedom. And
I love that.
It's like discipline equals freedom. And you think, I want to be free to do whatever I want. The second you start doing whatever you want, everything gets compromised.
Well, it's very interesting. I'm a huge American football fan. I'm an Alabama, and you know that. And I was just seeing Coach Saban, the head coach there, said, it's about doing what you're supposed to do, the way you're supposed to do it, when you're supposed to do it. It's discipline. I mean, at some point, you have got, but I think what was great about the way whoever your leaders were in the military is you wanted to do it because it gave you value and purpose. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that if you're disciplining someone or you're giving someone rules to follow, again, I love what you said. There had to be people sitting there watching you have to tie your shoes the right way or getting yelled at if you didn't, who were making fun of you and thinking it was stupid. But in reality, they had no idea, no awareness of what's really going on. Because, you know, the expression, the way we do anything is the way we do everything. That's not always true, but it should be true. Meaning, put excellence into everything you're doing. From tying if you can do something. It's tiny. There's no human being who couldn't tie their shoes properly if they put the energy into it. But if you're not getting it, by achieving that, it makes you feel good. Then you make your bed. You know, there's that whole book, I believe, right? Make your bed first thing in the morning.
Really, like virally, just successful speech by a really phenomenal military leader.
Yeah.
And he talks about, like, if that was all you accomplished for the day, and that small win, no matter how bad the day is, worst case, you're going home to a comfy bed.
Yeah, exactly. And
but
it's
it
like,
sets the tone, right? It's like, I did one thing really well. It's the first small win for the day.
Yeah.
And if you can get that first win and that compounds out, that's a good thing. But I always look at things like making your bed and the discipline to do it right. There are so many ways you can cut corners. There's so many ways, you don't need to pull that top sheet. You can pull a doona over. You don't need to make it. Yeah. But how much better is it when you do it right? Yeah. And not only that, when you get into the bed at night and you know that you cut the corners, it's not nearly as good. Yeah. So the big lesson in all of that is, like what you said, how you do anything is how you do everything. Making your bed is it's really just an idea about, if you can do that one thing right, you can do everything right. And if you do everything right, it's always going to be substantially better than if you cut corners and get into a bed that's...
Yeah. Well, the fact that you just got out of the environment you did, the military had an impact. And when I met you, I know you were already very entrepreneurial. You were running gyms and doing all kinds of stuff. And you had a lot of success in network marketing company. But then, you went a different direction. You left that company. And, we stayed in touch, but not regularly. And, now that, I don't know, several years later, we've reconnected. Like, I've been blown out by how much growth you've had from that point. So, like, what have been the key things that you think have changed? Because you own your own company now. Tell us real quickly about your company.
So we're an education company. We teach people how to do what's called technical analysis for financial charts. Huge focus on mindset and risk management. And we teach people how to trade financial markets.
Okay.
Trading financial markets.
Name of your company?
MTC Education.
Okay. And
a big part of financial markets is psychology, right? A lot of people think that, making money is 10% of it. How many people do you know that made money and lost it all? Right? Oh. Because if the mind's not right, it doesn't matter how fast it comes or how much you get, you'll destroy it. So we really are a personal development company that has a huge focus on mindset and psychology. I love it. And the cool thing is, if you get that right, we'll teach you how to make a bunch of money along the way. And it's good. An exciting company. We've got some phenomenal educators, really, really good products that people get massive value from. But the most exciting thing about our company is we're having an impact, and we're impacting a lot of people. One of the best things that I ever did was join a network marketing company. Yeah. And the reason was I got access to people like yourself, and again, it was like what happened in the military, where I had these positive male influences in my life that taught me what I needed at that time in my life. Yeah. And then once I got that and got out into the world, then I needed personal development, but I didn't really know what personal development
No one really does it.
Right. No one really does. And you kind of really set me on the path for that. And, I look at that company that I joined back then. That company, although it wasn't the company that set
your end all be all, right?
No, and at the time I thought it was going to be, right?
Right, of course.
It literally gave me everything for what I needed to get to,
Yeah.
step B, step C, step D. So
Yeah. Well, if we talk about, Stephen Jobs talks about, you have to believe the dots are going to connect, or people say everything happens for a reason. So even though that opportunity didn't end up being what you wanted it to be, the guy I'm doing my coaching with, I have a coach right now, and his big thing is alignment before assignment. It's about why, right? So you have to have a why. If you don't know, like, why are you doing this? But his thing is, it's why and who. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm so glad you're part of our club membership.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that is, it's a very, very high level elite mastermind group, very small. And Michael is part of that. And, I love what you said. Like, we have regular meetings every other month. We get together once a year in person, which we're going to be going to Paris very soon. That's going to be awesome. But more importantly, I love what you said. You said just having the peace of mind that if I need one of you, you're there. You know what I mean? It's like that. Look, spoke a lot to me.
Talk about that. One of the things that I talk about a lot is loneliness as an entrepreneur. This better than anyone. If you're going to be a leader, and if you are going to get really, really good at anything, you're going to spend a lot of time by yourself, because majority of people don't ever do anything. And what you find is you don't have a large circle that you can really count on. And one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur and a leader, you get lonely. And a lot of the time you get filled with self-doubt, right? You don't have the ability to kind of, look left and right and feel comfortable, right? That like everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And what I loved about the mastermind when I joined, and like I said to you in that audio, it wasn't so much that I was surrounded by amazing people that could solve my problems, right? Like, that was cool. I could ask questions, and I'm sure if I ever needed anything, it would be there. What I found more than anything was that fear and that self-doubt that I had prior.
Right.
Where if I was all alone and I was by myself, and I had an idea or I was going to do something, but that little voice came in and went, a doubt, right? Because we all have it. And what I found was, as soon as I joined the club, all of that went away.
That's crazy.
And the reason why was not because I could.
Yeah.
It was just in the back of my mind, I knew it was there. It was like walking across a tightrope knowing there was a trampoline under me.
Yeah, which is, I get that.
You know what I mean? It's like, if I fall, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I had never felt that before.
See, because, again, that was the fact that if you're part of the club, you have all of the founders' phone numbers. So, we have our meetings, but we have a group that we communicate in, and then you can just reach out whenever you want to. And I love the fact that even though you barely do that, you do it once in a while, but you're very respectful of our time. But I'm with you, because especially if you're the guy, like in your company, you're the guy. There's like, good news goes down, bad news goes up, meaning like in a typical company structure, you're somewhere, you're not the very top or the very bottom. So if something good is going on, you want to talk to everyone below you. You pray like, oh my gosh, everything's going great. You get everyone in a great mood. When something's wrong, you go to someone above you. You have someone to talk to. You have someone to get something off your chest. Tell them what you're afraid of. When you're in a situation where you're the guy and the buck stops here, that's why I think it's so important for people in your situation. That's why, there's various networking groups for CEOs, because you've got to have somebody to be able to talk to, whether it be a therapist, but having a business coach is obviously
having someone that can actually truly help. And I always say, complain up and breathe life down.
Yeah.
And when you're the guy that's constantly breathing life down, and it doesn't matter how turbulent things are, if you're the guy, it is your job to always have a smile on your face, and that's exhausting.
Yeah.
It is. That gets tiring. When you have someone, not that I would ever complain, but when you can look up and say, hey, I genuinely need a hand.
Yeah. Well, it's like, if for me, I go to at least one live seminar every year, and I've got a coach I have sessions with every month. Because if you're going to feed other people, but you're running on empty yourself, how do you do it? If you're not in a state of growth constant, no matter how much you might know right now, if you're not growing and learning, then that's toxic or can become toxic, and it's certainly not leading by example. So, we have to wrap up here shortly. So what would you say to an aspiring entrepreneur, Michael, someone like you who wants to own their own company, be in control of their destiny? What are just one or two main things you say that have really been the keys to helping you get to where you've gotten so far?
Yeah. The first one is stop thinking, start doing.
Okay.
Stop thinking and just start doing. I meet so many people that have ideas or they think that they want to execute and create something. And they spend so much time planning, budgeting, writing out the world's best
business plan.
And I'm not saying this is the best way to do it, but I've never written a budget in my life. I'm not recommending.
I'm sure there's an analytical person out there going,
there
what?
Is.
Yeah, I get it though.
But the simple fact is I also know my personality type.
Yeah.
It would be too lean because I'm a bit of a tight ass.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to stick to it to begin with.
Got it.
And if there's no budget, then I'll always just find the money. And
Got it.
anytime I ever started a business, I never had any money to begin with.
Yeah.
So what was I even thinking about?
Right.
So my whole point is, a lot of the time, every business that I've ever had success in, and I've created some 8-figure companies, and I've done some great businesses. Every one of those businesses started with relentless execution.
Right.
And a lot of doing until it got to a point where I had something that then I could look and start analyzing, breaking down and saying, what can I start doing better? So don't get so caught up in the how or the what, because the landscape changes so dynamically. Like everything changes now so quickly. So any plan that you have probably won't matter by the time you get started anyway. Yeah. So start doing and start doing right away.
I know you're a big fan of David Goggins. I believe you met with him in person.
I had dinner with David, spent 6 hours with him. It was incredible.
And I was watching one of his podcasts, and he was just talking about exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Instead of changing your mindset to get you into action, just take the action. And if you take enough positive action, like again, if you want to get in good shape, just get up every day at 5 o'clock and run. Just do that. Just do that. And then once you've done that for 30 days straight, you're going to change your mindset because you're going to feel better.
And it's funny, people will procrastinate about stuff like that. They think that they need the right app, the right coach, the right gym. Yeah. They're not going to start until they've got the right food. Yeah. And that whole, it's the exact same kind of thing. So if you're an entrepreneur and you've got an idea and there's something that you want to do it like now. Exactly. As soon as this podcast is finished, or stop the podcast now and execute on the thing that you said that you wanted to do. Yeah. And a lot of the time, it's a lot simpler than it is. I always say, put it out to the world. Yeah. I tell I don't like that whole hustle in silence thing. Yeah. It actually pisses me off because I'm just like, no. Tell the world what you're going to do and back yourself into a corner so hard that you have to do it because you don't want to look silly. Right. So tell the world, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Yep.
And then go do it.
And then just go do it.
No, I love it. That's cool. Well, you have been a phenomenal guest, brother. We're so grateful to have you as part of our family.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on your success, but I know you guys are just getting started. There's big things ahead for your company. So thanks for being a part of this. And, Michael is definitely a speaker at some of our events. So if you liked him here, you can definitely follow him on Instagram and on social media. YouTube, all that kind of good stuff. But more importantly, come to our live events. And one of these times in the near future, you'll see him on stage. So thank you, brother. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on The 4 Pillars.